Thank you, everyone, for joining the EdCollab gathering today. I have to say, it's days like these gathering days that I get so nostalgic. I mean, those of you that know me really well, I can be a bit of a mush, but just watching all of the sessions today, I've been trying to play good host as all the tech team has, and we're bouncing around looking at the different sessions. Every single one was full of such tremendous heart and focus on students and love for our profession and joy for what we do, and just a belief in the power of literacy and the belief that we and our kids together can enact incredible things through it. I was near tears all day long. Days like today just feel like a celebration, and it feels like something that no single one of us owns. It's the EdCollab, we're lucky to put this on, but it just feels like it's a part of every one of you. So thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Thank you to those of you that were streaming the EdCollab with groups or doing ironing and picking up your kids from soccer practice while it was on your phone. Thank you just to everyone. So to remind you of a couple of announcements from today before we move into our final session, and then also the announcement, the big announcement about next time. So just a reminder that the EdCollab, the gathering, is just one of many things that we do. The heart and soul that you feel across today is the heart and soul that we carry into all things that we do. So if you go on our agenda or onto our website and you click on the very first session, it's a pre-recorded session that I did last night. Or if you go to our main website, you can find links to our professional learning services guide. You can learn more about the sorts of things that we do in school, at conferences with organizations, our online learning opportunities, as well as free events like the gathering. So we hope that you'll check us out. All the ways that you learn with us just help us get better at what we do and allow moments like today to happen. So we look forward to partnering with you in lots of different exciting ways. Another big announcement, in case you missed it this morning, the EdCollab is opening up the opportunity to join us on our team through what we are calling our associate member. This is a brand new idea for us because we want to break down more barriers. We don't want to just invite people that we already know and just the folks that are writing books or just the people that we get to work with in schools or that we hear at conferences. We want to open up the EdCollab family to anyone who is passionate and dedicated around education, plus would like to join an intensive, rigorous family like this. It's not a simple thing. Being a member of the EdCollab, it takes a lot of prioritizing. It takes a lot of decision making. The times that we meet and learn internally are times when it's after a long work day and we all are busy with families or projects or other things, and yet we still squeeze in time to be a learning community together. But it's a time that I know personally, and I think every member of the group would say, when you're invested in this learning group together, you grow in incredibly tremendous ways. So you can find information about applying to be an associate member. Also on that same, the first spot on our agenda, you can also find information on this on our website, and we'll be sending out more information, well, the same information, but in another place through our email newsletter, as well as our social media accounts. So you can find out more there. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, Carolyn. The associate member is a one-year rigorous commitment to learning with and contributing to the organization of the EdCollab. An associate role is, as you can see on your screen, a junior member, somewhat like an internship that allows you the opportunity to work closely with us. We have several high expectations, although they're the same that many members of our group now take on, but they're high expectations that are designed on purpose to really push you and push us together. So you'll attend 8 of our internal private think tanks, the ones that aren't open to the public, because you'll be our member, you'll be a part of our smaller team. You'll attend 8 of those. You'll write 4 blog posts on our popular blog. You'll have automatic entrance into presenting a session at either one of our gatherings. It's your choice, whatever works in your schedule next year, or to be a member of our tech team, and to just like learn with us. So we're really excited about what this opportunity can mean. At the end of that year, you then could be invited to join for another year as an associate, or even move into another role in the organization. Or at the end of the year, you could say, like, this is really cool, thanks for the learning piece, and that's fine too. So please find out more. Applications will close the Sunday after Mother's Day in the US, which is like the 20th, somewhere around there. So there's that. One last reminder as well, at 4 o'clock is when this sweepstakes will close. We're going to give away 10 seats to our May 9th, 11 a.m. study series session with Janet Wong. We'll just follow along with everyone who's used hashtag TheEdCollabGathering today. Use some random number generator and choose 10 of you. So you can find out rules and drawing information on our website. We'll basically reach out to you through a tweet on Twitter using your handles. You'll just have to respond within a few days, and then we'll send you a code so you can join us. So I want to end by first, again, saying thank you. Thank you to all of you, the beauty and heart and soul that you put into the work that you do. The presenters from our keynote this morning, thank you to Ellen and Nell, to every single session. I don't know what to say. I'm literally speechless just thinking about how powerful every session was. At one point, Julia Reynolds, who presented earlier today on instructional leadership, she had texted me, hi Julia, and she had said, how do you have all of these sessions that blend so well together and just like tell this story of learning across the day? And I had to be honest, it's not us, it's all of you. It's really all the work that you do. I also absolutely have to say thank you, and please help me in saying thank you to our tech team. So the tech team are all volunteers. That's the next slide, Carolyn. The tech team are all volunteers. They are educators just like you from all over the world who are giving of their time, who are celebrating this love of learning and this gift that we're all creating. Something to note is that the tech team also works with presenters before today. So in addition to all of the amazing things they do, you can find their bios directly on our website. For when you see tech team, you can click there. In addition to all of their incredible work, they also make time to meet with all of our presenters. So they're within their busy day, adding more busy to it just to make today possible. And they do it all volunteer. So please, 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 if there's only one thing you do today, in addition to making a donation to our adopted charity, No Kid Hungry, please tweet to our tech team or write to them or just give them a hug if you know them. They make today possible. In addition, if you would like to be a part of the tech team, you can do that too. And if you just click on the Present With Us tab on the top of our page, you'll see it. So here's the, no, you can go ahead, Carolyn. Here's the big announcement. Our next gathering, our gatherings happen twice a year in fall in September and in spring in April. So fall 2018, we are so delighted to announce that our keynote speaker is the New York Times bestselling author, Elizabeth Acevedo. Elizabeth is formerly the National Youth Slam Poetry Champion. She presented with us on an author panel a couple of EdCollab gatherings ago, and she's a newly minted New York Times bestselling author for her novel in verse, The Poet X. I know so many of you, in fact, I feel like I can hear the screaming of joy on Twitter right now. So many of you have been reading The Poet X and using Elizabeth's work, or you know her work from her spoken word work that she does across the country, and you can find many of it online. So Elizabeth Acevedo will be our opening keynote. We are so honored and excited. Please feel free to use her Twitter handle as well to say how excited you are. The date is September 29th, so mark your calendars right now. And the gathering is also, and very much should be, joined by you. Right now, right this very second, proposals are now open. If you watch today, actually, let me quote someone from today. So Joseph Teague, who presented earlier today, and I have to say thank you, Joseph. It was really sweet of you to say. Joseph said, you know, I'm someone that as a teacher, I'm often in the audience watching people speak. And he said something to the effect of, if you have ever wondered if you should present your work, if you think, is that something I really should do? You absolutely should. And he said the EdCollab gathering is one way to do it, and certainly there's many more. So if you at all are thinking, I think I would like to do that, even if you're scared, even if you think no one will care, yes, they will, and we're going to love it, and it's going to be a better day for it. So please propose. Proposals close soon. We keep it short on purpose so you don't forget. They close on June 1st. So right now, right this exact second, if you'd like, you can go up to the top of the page, click on Present with Us, and you can begin filling out a proposal or an application to join our tech team. So please do join us there. Okay, so announcements aside, now we'll move into our closing keynote, our closing session. So if you're in the literacy community, if you're in the EdCollab community, you know that we've lost an incredible light over this last year. Someone who, I think one thing that signifies her the most, Dana Stakowiak, a member of our group, wrote this in her blog post. Rozz's smile is something that you just carry with you and hold on to all of the work that you do. So in our closing session today, Rozs taught me a celebration of teaching, learning, and inspiration. And Carolyn, you can move to the other slide deck. Our goal is not to have a memorial necessarily, because we've had time for that. I was able to attend just a beautiful, moving, incredible memorial service in Georgia with her family, her sorority sisters, many educators. And that felt like the time to celebrate and weep and grieve and celebrate. What we'd like to do during this closing session is just share with you some of the ways that we as a community have learned from Rozs, but that we know that many of you have as well too. And if you're new to Rozz's work, we hope that this is an introduction to her books that you can buy and blog posts that you can read and videos of hers that are still available that you can watch. And if you're like us, where there's a piece of your heart that's hurting, we hope it's just a time you can reflect on what a gift her journey has been. So in short, Rozs Lindner was an educator. She had served every single role in education that you could possibly have, all the way through teacher, coach, administrator. She taught at the college level. And just filled her life and her heart and literally her family's work with investing in kids and investing in teachers. And what Rozs has left with us is a number of books, a number of just heartfelt messages, and just this incredible energy. So during this session, we're going to share some of those. So first up, Maggie Roberts, who many of you saw earlier today, is going to share with us on Rozs, one of the lessons from Rozs Clarity.
Thanks, Chris. So if I begin my reflection about Rozs, I'll take you to a middle school in Tennessee, where I was working with a great group of teachers on making teaching tools to take into our classrooms, right? Like physical artifacts that we could taken, used, and planned lessons around. And at the table of one of the participants that I was working with, she had this well-worn, dog-eared copy of Roz's Chart Sense. And I was presenting and it caught my eye and it took my breath away. And I just paused for a moment and out loud said, Rozs. And this was just after her passing. And in that moment, I realized how clear it was to me that the legacy of her work would not only live on our bookshelves, but live on in the actual practical tools that we make to bring into our classrooms to teach. And so when I was reflecting upon how to share around Rozz's clarity, I was thinking that she was really clear in a lot of ways, but the top 3 ways she felt clear to me was that, number 1, her instruction was always really clear. Like, she was known for that. Rozs was able to break down something complex into really clear, practical parts that you could take in and turn around and teach the next day, right? Her instruction was practical, it was clear, it was simple, and it could be easily interpreted so that it could keep up with the pace and the demands of teaching. In addition to her instruction being clear, it felt like her purpose and her goals in which she set out for herself as a teacher and also a teacher educator was always very clear, right? In her, best-selling series on charts, it was very clear that this collection will help document the instruction in our classrooms and create tools to have kids work independently. Her amazing big book of details, right, is a collection of 46 teaching moves or writing moves that you can do as a writer and a teacher of writing to help kids elaborate in their writing. And so her instruction always felt clear. Her purpose and her goals for her work felt clear, and her vision as a teacher leader was clear, right? She had this clear vision to help as many of us, as many students as possible. And so I wanted to take a moment and live off of her work alongside you so that we can see how many lessons we can create that live off of all of the clear lessons that she gave us. So let's start with the slide that you can see. This is one of my favorite strategies from the Big Book of Details. If you don't have it, open up a tab on Amazon right now or your favorite online bookseller and put it in your cart. It's a fantastic guide to helping kids write long and write well. And this move, the repeaters, is that she teaches kids to use this move to emphasize a particular description, a particular character trait or feeling. Okay, she says in her book that this move, the repeaters, we want to teach kids to use this strategy to show that the author or writer is intentionally drawing the reader back to hit this pattern of words, right? This can show that something is important or even communicate a specific mood or emotion. The use of the repeater strategy also provides a distinct sing-song type of rhythm to the text. It's a great way to interrupt the monotony of several sentences that follow a similar sentence structure. So Rozs shares her favorite way to teach this strategy, and she recommends using a mentor text that uses this strategy of repeaters. It could be anything from green eggs and ham to listen to these from Jane Yolen's Welcome to the Greenhouse. Welcome to the greenhouse. Welcome to the hot house. Welcome to the land of warm and wet days. Right? She encourages us to share the lines from our favorite texts that actually use this strategy in real life, and encourages kids to study as a mentor, right? Investigating what they notice about the repetition and, most importantly, what that repetition accomplishes. Rozs poses this question to us as teachers and her student writers. Why do we remember the lines from this book? She explains that writers can steal this move and use it in their own writing to make it more powerful and to make it more memorable. So why use them? 3 big reasons, right? To provide rhythm, to emphasize certain words, and to show feelings or attitudes. And so, one of the joys about a professional text is to get as much as you can out of a resource like this. And so if I go back to that workshop in Tennessee, and we're gathered around the strategies that Rozs has collected in a book on charts or a book on elaboration strategies, what could I make that further extends this strategy? So let's go to the next slide. And I'll show you a way that I lived longer off of this lesson. The group of teachers and I that I was working with, we just were like, okay, what are other tools we can make from that content? And so one is a demonstration notebook page. A demonstration notebook page is a tool that my co-author Kate and I feature in DIY Literacy. It's a tool that helps kids see like a current level of their writing. Like, this is where my writing is right now. Here are 3 strategies that I could use to improve this piece of writing. And it's like all the students, like picture 3 or 4 of them are kind of huddled around this picture that you see on the screen right now. And I might say something like, okay, so right now our writing looks like this. A recent study shows that the time young adults spend on social media, the more likely they might suffer from depression and anxiety, right? We can imagine that kids are writing informational text and they're teaching us about what's happening as we're spending more and more time online. I can go back to Roz's strategy of like, how could I use words that repeat that can improve this piece of writing? And she gave me 3 clear strategies, right? She said, well, you could repeat words or phrases to create rhythm. You could repeat words to emphasize certain ones, and you could repeat words that show feelings. And so this demonstration notebook page might be like, I got 3 or 4 kids around me. I'm like, hey, friends, your writing is at this level. Feel good about yourself. Pat yourself on the back. I'm going to tell you 3 strategies that my favorite teacher, Rozs, taught me about elaborating my writing. And that's by repeating words. And you can do that by create places that you want to create rhythm, words that you want to emphasize, or words that you want to repeat to create feeling. And those little blank Post-its on the bottom there are for me to like farm out to kids that are sitting right there being like, okay, quickly, let's rewrite this example using some of Roz's strategies. And then they can take that and go back to their own writing and they have an example. But again, we're teachers. We like to think, okay, what's another possibility? What's another possibility, right? How can I even live longer off of this strategy that Rozs includes? And this is only one of 46 strategies, right? So we'll go to the next slide. The second tool that we imagined making together is something that Kate and I call a micro progression, which is kind of like I'm gonna do a skill of using repeating, like using this repeater strategy. I'm gonna like, what's like a good version of that? What's a even better version than that? What's an even better than version than that? So if I were to even say that in a different way, it's almost like, what's the most accessible way to use Roz's repeating strategy? What's a level up from that? What's a level up from even that? So in that first example, she gives us 3 reasons why you might repeat words as a writer to make your writing longer, to elaborate your thinking. And the teachers and I, we kind of huddled together when we were making this thing, and we were like, well, it feels like the easiest thing we could do for a kid that like isn't repeating anything as a strategy. You could get them on the train of that work by saying, hey, if you repeat words in your writing, it will emphasize certain words or phrases that you really want to emphasize. So check it out. Right, and a micro progression will say, here's the little strategy. You'll see Roz's strategy right there, emphasize certain words or phrases. And a little piece of like micro writing, a little couple lines or 2, like a line or 2 of writing that shows that move in action, right? More time on social media and more platforms leads to more depression, more isolation, and more anxiety. Right. So if a kid isn't using this strategy, I could say, hey, jump on the train. This is great work. Why don't you just start to repeat words that could then emphasize what you're really trying to talk about, right? More time on social media, more platforms leads to, good news, friends, right? Leads to more depression, more anxiety. Not what we're doing today. This is not what we're talking about here. Okay. Then if some kids are doing that, I could say, all right, you want to know the next level of this work? Rozs also says, well, here's another reason why you would repeat words, right? You'd repeat words to create rhythm in your writing. cadence, a beat. Social media like Instagram gives users instant access to instant negative feelings, instant anxiety, instant depression. This isn't just for narrative writing, right? That as a writer of informational texts or writer of persuasive texts, I can repeat words to create a rhythm that will walk my readers closer and closer to the point that I'm trying to make. If kids are doing that, I could say, all right, level up. A third way that you might use repeating words is repeating words that really reveal feelings or attitudes that you, as the writer, have about this topic or piece, or you're trying to repeat words that reveal feelings or attitudes that like many have about this topic, right? So if you can go into a speech, you can look at words that the orator might be using to really convey the feelings that they have about the topic. I have a dream. I have a dream, right? So this example that I wrote is not my finest, but I'm trying it, right? Social media, more like sad media. Users report increased sadness and other sad emotions like depression when they spend more time logged on. So the words that we use and the words that we repeat, right? If you were to take a speech from a politician, generate a word cloud for that speech and see how many times words would pop up. The words that repeat are the refrain of the tone of the piece. And so this could be a third way to use Roz's strategy. So I guess what's really great about Rozs and her ability to have such clarity about her instruction, have such clarity about her goals and the vision for her work, and her clarity for the purpose of her work, is that then it sets me up, the avid teacher practitioner, of, okay, well, how else could I use this strategy? How else could I use this strategy? So taking a book like this, 46 Moves, it's like I can think of 146 ways to live off of that book. And for that, I will always be grateful.
Thank you, Maggie. Another idea or feeling that Rozs has taught us is risk-taking. So a couple of things are true about her, and Carolyn, you could go to the next. Perfect. Several things are true about her. So when we at the EdCollab have known Rozs for a total of 4 years tops, we are definitely the newbies into her life and experience. But every single person at the memorial service, all the people just around her that we've connected with and spoken to around those times, around the time when all this was taking place, continually say that Rozs has this way of making every single person feel like they're her best friend, that she just cares so deeply about everyone and invests in everyone, that even if you've known her for a short time, you feel like you've been in her heart and you know all of her experience, or at least a lot that she shares. In fact, someone had joked that she stood up back in January and said, I just want to say I'm a little upset because I thought I was Ross's best friend, but every single person that's spoken so far has said that they are. That's just kind of who she was. So one thing that Rozs had expressed to me, and I'm sure to many of you many times, is that she was very aware of who she was in the world, but also who she represented in the world. Rozs, in her very matter-of-fact kind of a way, in phone calls that would go on and on because we both were talkers, she would say, Chris, I get it. I am, her words, I'm a Black woman who formerly from Michigan, but lives in the South. I've, kind of built this awareness of me. The work that I do is not just for me and about me. In fact, one thing that Rozs and I had shared, she had shared privately with me and probably shared with several other people close to her that I think I could probably share, is one big project she was working on towards the end of her life was what she was calling her Black Girl Magic crew. She was really working on building a group of consultants of other Black women like her that would do education work because she said, where are we? We aren't often the ones who are chosen first to do lots of things, but we're needed. So she was really aware of that. And so one of the things that Rozs did is she took risks constantly in a way that I know I could never take risks, in a way that just is so inspiring and amazing. So for example, one of those risks in the next slide was her book series. So Ross's editor is my editor at Heinemann, Toby Anteo, and Toby explained that when Heinemann found Rozs, Rozs had already created an entire publishing company around herself. She already was well known in the work that she did. Many times Heinemann or other publishers, other big publishers, are kind of like the people who help to launch you. Like I feel like I helped to build a career with Heinemann's help. But Rozs and her family and close friends and a close network really made chart sense. They started to create this series of books that were, as Maggie said, Ross's clear, practical way of working in the world. They created it themselves. Now, Rozs will say she also was not afraid. One of the other risks she would take is just asking. So for example, Dave Burgess, who does the Teach Like a Pirate series and other books there is publishing, Rozs admired the work that he did. Rozs just reached out to Dave Burgess, and she said that Dave spoke to her for a very long time on the phone, was extremely helpful to say, well, I would do this and I would do that. And that's just how Rozs took risks. So I want to share a couple more risks that she took, but here's what I would love from all of you. In honor of this lesson from Rozs, and in celebration of what she's left for us, could you use hashtag TheEdCollabGathering? And would you share a risk that you know you need to take? That one that's kind of like just on the sort of edge of your experience. Maybe it's something that you're about to jump into, or you think you should jump into, but you've been afraid to. It could be anything. It could be a professional risk or a personal risk. But could you just think, what's a risk that you need to take? And as Rozs often would, could you share it in a public way? So use hashtag TheEdCollabGathering. If you'd like, you could use hashtag Rozs Taught Me, if you'd like. And could you just share a professional or personal risk that you know you need to take, and you just are like trying to be brave enough to do it and share that? So to continue with some of Roz's risk taking. So one was her publishing. So when I got to know Rozs, now going on about 4 years ago, early into our relationship, our professional relationship, she mentioned this, what you see on your screen right now. She said, yeah, so I'm thinking it might be, this is totally Rozs. I'm thinking it might be a good idea if I do some writing workshops around the US. And Carolyn, if you go to the next slide, literally around the US. So this was Atlanta, Nashville, Orlando, Raleigh, Chicago. I know some of you tuning in have actually went to one of these workshops, like some friends from Chicago that were here today, I know went. And as we were talking about it, I said to Rozs, I am terrified of doing live events, of like renting a hotel space, of trying to see who would come. Like I know it's an important, great thing. I love to travel around, as many of us do. But how on earth are you going to do that? And Rozs just said, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. And she did. And actually, if you Google right now, Rozs Lindner Writing Jumpstart, you will see the website that she and her small team, including her husband, created. You will see videos of people that were there with her that loved it so much that they wanted to like do a video testimonial. When Rozs dreamed, she dreamed big, and she threw all caution to the wind in a way that I sometimes I'm terrified to do. I am a shy person by nature, and she just puts it out there and said, do it. And so she had the successful run of these incredible writing workshops that people learned a lot from. Afterwards, she said, you know, we like broke even on some, and others it was closed, and a few, I think we made some money on it. But all in all, she said it was an incredible learning experience, and I got to connect with people that I don't know I normally would, which all comes back to, again, just when Rozs took risks, her risk-taking was about community and opportunity for teachers and kids. So one last one I'd like to share also from her professional book. I'll actually refer to the same one, the Big Book of Details that I have right here as well, is how Rozs also teaches risk-taking to kids too. Rozs has has a tremendous belief around standing up for and fighting against, fighting for voices and children and adults and experiences that need to be supported, and often those that aren't in our world, and often those that aren't in our political structures and our power and privilege structures in our country and everywhere, and really fighting against oppressive forces. In fact, another thing I could share, because it was shared publicly at her memorial service, is one of Roz's last book projects that she was just starting. There are many things Rozs could have written about. She could have easily written some books on charts. She could have easily written books on reading instructions. She could have easily written books on conferring. Instead, what Rozs decided to take on, the project she was deeply invested in, was a book that really explored and looked at race in the classroom and experiences for her being a Black teacher of sometimes white students and sometimes students of color, of also working inside of an education space where so many times she knew she was othered. That was a project that she cared deeply about. So this was one of the many risks she would take, just standing up. So one thing that we learn in Big Book of Details, this is one of several examples, is to teach through writing, confronting challenge head on. What I love in Big Book of Details, as Maggie shared with you, is she takes mentor texts and mentor sentences and then uses them to teach big truths about writing and do it in a really clear way. And what I love about this one, called Very Complicated, is Rozs noticed a pattern in a lot of writing that took on controversial topics, or at least controversial to other people. Because what's controversial to you is actually someone's life. So controversial to some people. One thing that she noticed is that when people write about controversial to someone topics, they often do it in, at some point, just a clear, flat out, explicit way. They don't dance around the topic. They don't kind of hem and haw about it. They just, through their writing, say, this is a truth, or this is something. So some of the examples you can see on your screen there, the recycling debate is complex. Cheating is a difficult issue to discuss. And then she uses this chart that she's used in classrooms with students as examples of ways that kids can take up a topic that might feel hard to some, and so might feel hard to talk about or discuss, but just name it. Talking about race can be very complex. Analyzing our political system is not as simple as it may seem. Examining differences between people is nuanced. So Rozs teaches us the ability to risk take. So now, joining us actually live from EdCamp, New Jersey, that's just ending, we're going to pass over to Heather Rocco. Thank you for joining us, Heather, who's going to share another lesson from Rozs. Hi, Heather.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Sorry to jump in late. I'm sure that you're having an inspiring session already. So I have a personal story first about how Rozs was encouraging to me. And then I can talk through how we've used some of her work as well. So first, I just want to tell the story about how when Rozs and I had the opportunity to do a study series together, which was a wonderful experience for me. And we had the chance to work and plan together and put together a session on encouraging students to foster independence in their work. And it was great. And I learned so much from her in that opportunity about all that she did with teaching. But one of the things that I learned the most, I think, from her, and I'll get a little verklempt as I do this, but she was so encouraging to me about telling my story. And again, it was we probably talked for about a half an hour about writing and how she came about being a writer and why it was so powerful and moving to her to have the experience and how she had grown as an educator because she decided to write. And so as I was working through some of my contributions to this study series, Rozs was a person who said to me, "You have a story to tell. When are you going to write your book?" And it was one of those times, first times when I thought like, okay, maybe I might have something to say because it's Rozs is saying that, I might have something to say. Perhaps I should take a risk and do it. And I am in the process of writing a book, fingers crossed. But the message that Rozs really sent to all of us is every teacher has a story to tell. Everyone has a message to send. Everybody has something they can contribute. But it's about slowing down as a teacher ourselves and naming our practice. And what story can we bring? How can we bring our student work, our craft as a teacher into the broader scope? And then that makes all of us better. So I'm truly and will always be grateful for Rozs for believing me. And I know Chris had talked about, when we had one of our think tanks, about how someone had said, about Rozs and how she connects with people, and how they always said, like, I thought I was Rozz's best friend. So I had that moment later where I learned, and all of us on the EdCollab group together, I found out how many people Rozs was encouraging to write. So she was a champion for everybody, and I will miss her. I do miss her and miss her encouragement, and I will be forever grateful to her for that gift. So thank you, Rozs, for thinking of you. Okay, Joellen's here now. Joellen stepped in too, so I think we can go. Hi. I think it's back. We're going to mentor and talk about what Rozs taught about mentorship.
Very difficult to follow up, Heather, after that. But I think it's just such a powerful day today to be able to honor, Rozz's work and her memory. And it's not done, because her work will live on in the lives that she's touched. And I think that when we think of mentorship, all of Rozz's work was about using mentor texts and being able to find those books that are our co-teachers. But one of the things that Heather and I, we were just talking about today, is it's not just about the books, it's the people behind the books. So in a session I did earlier, we talked about that, about how, the reader writes the story. And also it's the individual author that's the real life person behind that story that's inspiring us and influencing us, and not the book. So I'm thinking about all the things that I learned from Rozs. And I know that one of the books that is a professional resource that I've used again and again is the Chart Sense book. In New York specifically, when the Common Core standards came out and people were, scrambling to see how can we find ways to lift the level of kids' reading and writing, which of course is valuable and important. Well, in New York, we have the mind-numbing Engage New York approach that kind of, I don't even want to say the words because it just was a little bit, I'm going to probably get in trouble, but nothing engaging about it. And Rozs is someone who was not afraid to say, oh, I have to do something now because of the standards, because she always put students first and not the standards. So if she, stepped back in her work to say, okay, we're not going to jump ship on what good teaching looks like. We're going to look at how we can analyze what those standards mean, what they're asking of our students, and let's find some tools to help them. So if you're not familiar with her work in Chart Sense, both the K2 version and the 3.6, she really does unpack all of those standards and make thinking visible. And I think that's so wonderful because, again, it's the power of mentorship. You can look at a book and the person behind that book and think about what are the moves that writer has done. So Rozs has done that for us in all of the work that she has given us. She's put herself out there and showing the moves that she does, which will influence our teaching and forever influence the work that we do with other educators, which I think is a gift. And then not just talking about mentorship in books, but mentorship in life. I think, one of the things that I will always remember, and I can't think of Rozs without thinking of a beautiful smile on her face. Always, always smiling, right?
Yep.
And like her smile would light up the room or light up, the camera if she was doing a webinar. And I remember being at NCTE, and it's amazing because we have this wonderful group in this family, but we don't always get to be together, although I'm so happy to be with Heather here today. And one of the first times I met Rozs, she was like across the room, and all I see is like this big, huge smile. And she's like, Joellen! And, just arms wrapped around you. And I think, and I think about her work, we all have that feeling of, her wrapping her arms around us and leaving us with something that's going to be meaningful to support kids and to support teachers. And just one last thought about Rozs that I love. I love how she talked about the wall of crazy all the time. Yeah. So, she was always encouraging people to do things like Heather said, write tell your story. But she's a little crazy too. And I think we can relate to that. I know I can relate to that. So I want to think about Rozs and think about, you know, all that she taught us about being crazy and celebrating that craziness. Like, we're obviously a little excited about the work that we do, and we're so lucky. Look, I'm knocking on wood. We're passionate about that. And when you have mentors and models and people who've touched your lives in that way, like Rozs, I mean, we're all standing on the shoulders of amazing mentors. And Rozs will be forever missed, but her work will not be forgotten. It will live on. So thank you for giving us the chance to talk about what Rozs taught us.
Yay. Okay, we're going to move back to the practical now. So we're going to move to that slide about language. And I'm just going to tell one more story and pull again from the big book of details, which I know Chris was just talking about as we popped on here. But I'm a K-12 ELA supervisor, and I had the benefit of sending 3 of my teachers to go see Rozs at Keene University in October. And they were very inspired by her. And one was a 1st grade teacher, a 3rd grade teacher went, and then I had a 7th grade teacher go. And after we learned of Roz's passing, and then later the opportunity to say how she inspired them, 2 of them just jumped at the chance to tell their story and how since October, they had moved into their classroom and changed some of their practice with teaching of writing. Unbeknownst to me, I was writing a blog post, as was my 3rd grade teacher who saw her for this series. And Lee was writing about how Rozs inspired her to change her instruction on grammar. Now, if you see the blog post was just posted, I am a high school English teacher at heart, and I don't like to teach grammar. I don't know many people who like to teach grammar. But what I love about this book, with all these writing moves that she has in here, what I learned in closely reading this is that there's so many opportunities to teach grammar instruction without even saying the word grammar, or saying the word preposition, or saying the word, I don't know, adverbial phrase, whatever it might be. Because what Rozs did so well and does so well in this book is that she spends time telling kids why. And she shows teachers that it's our job to show them why in their writing. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I mean here. So the part that I wrote about in the book is actually on page 71, where she's talking about the time marker, and she has the same in location marker. Similar idea. How do you get students to think about where or how to kind of give context to what's happening when it's happening, whether it's in a day, in a year, in a month, whatever it might be. So she takes us through, and I love, 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 and so I'm grateful for her inclusion of mentor text in here, just simple lines that kids can read and then pull from. But in this text, she pulls from books like Ruby Bridges and The Boy Who Saved Baseball, and pulls these great lines that then show how, for example, I'll just read her example here from The Boy Who Saved Baseball. Later that morning, just before 9, Tom and Frankie headed out the barn door and across the backyard. Now, back in the old days, I might have destroyed that sentence and said, let's look at the positive phrase in here and how the writer is using that. I want you to put in a positive phrase in your writing. Then, Rozs taught us better. And what I learned through Rozs is I need to tell kids and show kids how time and marking time in your writing, or marking time or marking location, in your writing gives your reader context. So instead of having conversations that use just grammatical language that doesn't make sense to them because that just has no meaning, instead I show them how grammar is a tool. My colleague Lee, whose slides you'll see that those are the examples that are on the slide, did the same thing with her 3rd graders. So Rozs also has a chapter in here on using the adverb and putting the adverb first. So in Lee's blog post, she talks about how she introduced this strategy to her students, showing some of the examples, not only from the ones that Rozs offers, but then also from the books that they were reading in their independent reading. She had students kind of go through, and just as you're reading, if you come across this ly at the beginning of a sentence, notice what's happening there. And what her 3rd graders noticed was that writers were making decisions about telling you what the characters were feeling first, and that helps you as the reader read a sentence in a certain way. So in Lee's student's example, I believe the student's name is Ryan. He has first happily, because he wants to know that happily comes first, and then goes on and describes then the rest of the action in the story. So Rozs slows it down for us and gives teachers language. We often feel overwhelmed by teaching grammar, but instead she has us focus on the why. Why does a writer put an adverb first? And she does it in a way that allows third graders to see the purpose of it. And then Lee talks about how later we do on-demand assessments, of course. She loves seeing her kids trying it, even in the language that were, or even in the writing that they were doing just on prompts, and they had to write quickly. It stuck. It stuck in their brains that was a tool that they had that they could use. They could use it to tell time, they could use it to tell location, and of course they could use it to, of course, show what the character was feeling. Yes, you talked about commas. Yes, we talked about phrases, but you didn't use those words. The kids weren't focused so much on commas that then they were putting commas everywhere. Instead, they saw the purpose for it. And that's something that I will always appreciate about Rozs. And in particular, this book is just amazing. There's so many things in here that we can take into our classrooms, work with our students in conferences, and it's really practical and lets the kids really hold on and see themselves, hold on to the learning, excuse me, and then really see themselves as writers. So thank you. It was great to share that in our work and the influence that Rozs has had on us here in my school district.
Thank you, Heather. So the invitation to share risks is just beautiful. I mean, I'm going through on hashtag TheEdCollabGathering. Some of you are using hashtag Rozs taught me. The risk I need to take is blogging. I have public screen fright. I should present at the next gathering. Yep. Risk putting my writing and art out there. I need to stop letting fear keep me from my dreams. Bravely sharing publicly a risk I need to take, sharing a potential dissertation idea with education groups, because if I want to do it, I'll need their help. Was that out loud? I really want to contribute to a professional book. That was a scary sentence to write, and on and on and on. What Rozs has taught us is to take unabashed risks. And the kind of beauty and tragedy is that she wasn't done. She had so many more things to do. I just shared with you 2 projects that were on the horizon that weren't just small projects. They were huge. They were going to be gigantic. They were going to be the large work that Rozs does in the world, and just change literacy, change the faces of literacy in a really important and powerful way. She wasn't done. But one thing that was said at the memorial service was, in a way, it almost seems like maybe Rozs knew that. Like that's morbid and something not to think or wish, but there was just this feeling of like, she lived her life so fully and took such tremendous risks and brought so many people along with her, almost with this sense of like, she was so aware that time is short, regardless of however long the time might be. So a few things that I'd like to leave you with. One is, say your risk publicly, and take a lesson from Rozs. Ask. I'm not good at that myself. I try to take public risks as much as I can, although there still are some that are scary, but I don't ask as much as I should. And when I do ask, it's better and it actually happens. Like the gathering happened because I've asked, and look at all of you who are helping to ask as well and take part in it. So say your risk publicly, but ask. Ask for help. Reach out, because people want to help great ideas and great people. Another thing is mentor. There are people who need to ask that haven't asked, but they haven't asked inside of them. Just like Rozs was a mentor to all of us, and the way that, as Heather shared, she would say, "Did you write your book yet? What's your book? You need to share your book," and she would talk at length about it. Or Rozs would mentor me. "You need to do live events. The EdCollab should do live events. People want to see you guys in purpose." And still didn't work. I'm scared, but I heard that message loud and clear. There are people who need a mentor, but they haven't asked for it yet. Be the mentor. Take the thing that you know how to do, and by writing about it and talking about it and sharing and asking others for help that they'd like in the thing that they're doing that you heard about, that's going to help make everyone's dreams more possible. I also just want to pick up a thread that mattered so much to Rozs, and this is actually kind of an echo of what Trisha and Kim were talking about earlier today. As I said, Rozs did not hide from her identity and what her identity meant inside of an education space like ours. When you look at publishers in education who are writing books like my books, the number of educators of color who are represented as main or co-authors in books is still really low. It still is it's a low percentage of people who are speakers, who are invited to schools. Trisha and Kim talked about this earlier. Another risk that you can take is to seek out people that aren't represented in the professional learning that you do and your colleagues do at your school. And when your school's ready to invite someone, as much as I'd like you to hire me to come somewhere because I really would like to work with you, look beyond people like me and take risks in who those people are, because their stories and their work and their perspective are incredibly powerful, just as Roz's was. Rozs was really one of those champions of trying to reach out and change literally change the actual face of literacy education. And then I think lastly of all, reach out to everyone around you. Just hear about their dreams. Find out what are the things that you're working on. And dreams don't have to be creating your own publishing company as Rozs did, and don't have to be writing professional books. Dreams can be the new unit that you want to take up, or someone had written in their challenges to talk about social justice in your classroom in the way that someone else that they admire does and they're scared to do. It can be having a conversation with parents that are a little bit different. They can be personal as well too. Share your dreams and ask for others' dreams, because together is how we make them possible. So thank you all for just an incredibly amazing learning day. I feel like ending the day just trying to share a little bit of our celebration of Roz's work. I feel like today is such a good example of all the things that she stood for: passion for education, belief in kids, a earnestness around being incredibly practical while grounding your work in deep theory. Oh, I should add, as I'm thinking about Dana Stokowiak's post about being a researcher and practitioner, this morning we heard from Ellen Keene and Dr. Nell Duke about the importance of being grounded in research, but then being able to describe that research for practitioners and kind of living between both. You may know this, or you may not know this. Not only was she Dr. Rozs Linder, but she was actually working on her second PhD. So there's another way she was breaking all grounds and taking tremendous risks. Rozs continually grounded herself in research in our field, but tried to turn that into practical work for educators. So thank you for the practical beliefs that you have and the research grounding way you work. So thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on September 29th. Proposals are open right now to join this amazing day as either a presenter or a tech team host. And as always, thank you for all you do for your colleagues, for your students, and for this incredible profession. Have an incredible rest of your day, everyone, and take care.